Welcome to another episode of I Need a Session. I'm Kim Wilson, your host. If this is your first time joining, this show is all about self-empowerment. I created a safe space for people to share their stories. I believe every human being has a story that is connected to the healing, the growth, or development of another human being. Once again, I have a wonderful show lined up for you. And 5, 4, 3, 2, hit it. Meet Carol Yvonne Tucker-Burden. She currently works as a lab manager and senior research specialist for the Winship Cancer Institute at Emory University School of Medicine. Carol is a proud mother of young adult twins. She recently earned a Master of Religious Leadership degree from the Keller School of Theology at Emory University. She was recently accepted into the Juris Masters Program at Emory Law School, where she will specialize in law and religion. Carol's recent success proves that we can achieve at any phase in life. Hi, I'm Kim Wilson. Thank you for joining me. I am back for another session of I Need a Session with my very special guest, Carol Tucker-Burden. Carol, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
You know, I've known Carol now probably about 8 years. Yeah, and we met through a professional organization. And one of the things that I know, well, characteristics, I should say, that I noticed about Carol that I've always loved, wisdom. I always told her, say, Carol, your wisdom. And Carol, she, she observes. She's not one of those people that just walks in the room and start talking. She sits back. She takes it in. And when you hear her perspective, it's like, well, go ahead, wisdom. Most recently, what just really motivated me and inspired me by Carol when she went back to school and she got her master's degree. And I remember it being a conversation. I remember just kind of casually talking to her and her saying like, oh, I think it went from concept to action step to it is done.
Wow.
I know, right? Yes, ma'am. And this show, I Need a Session. One of the reasons why I put this show together is because I believe at any given time, every human being holds a story inside of them that is connected to the growth, the change, the transformation of another human being. And it's just when we are vulnerable enough to release those stories and share those stories that transformation happens. And Carol is here to do just that today. Carol, and let me just go back a little bit. So today's theme is all about it's never too late, right? A lot of times we can't become what we want to be or what is meant for us to be because we have to overcome something. Sometimes it's overcoming a thought, a memory, this emotion of fear, so we don't move on to the next thing. So I think becoming whatever that is all about overcoming something. So Carol, set this up for us. It started as a concept. How did you get to this place of from concept to it is done going back to school?
Wow, great question. I would have to say it started when I was about maybe 57 years old, give or take 57 to 57 and a half. And I was struggling in a marriage, but I also was having encounters with the Holy Spirit and being attentive to that. And in doing so, was encouraged through resources that were made available. And that particular resource was the resource of having a tuition-paid education at Emory University. And a listserv message came about, and I responded to it. Now, ordinarily, I would not have responded to the listserv, but there was an urging within me that said, give attention to this. So much so, Kim, that when I did, I was excited about going to the information session. I went rushing over and I got there was no one in the room. So I'm here wondering, well, did I get the directions right? And I was certain that I was in the right place. Well, it turns out I was in the wrong place. There are 2 buildings on the campus with that same name, but I didn't look at the greater detail. So I went away saying, this is foolish. Why would I give attention to something like that? But it came again. And when it came the second time, it was clear that I needed to go ahead, find out where the location is and be present. And I did. And 3.5 years later, I now have a degree in religious leadership from Candler School of Theology at Emory University. And wow is what I have to say.
Oh my gosh. I mean, actually, that was loaded what she just said. I want to make sure my listeners, my viewers don't miss this, because sometimes we can't become. There's one thing that you did right at the beginning of telling that story, Carol. Mm-hmm. That first thing you said, I was 57. See, sometimes as women, we can't do that. We can't identify our age. Our age is connected to our identity. Mm-hmm. And when we stop telling it, it's like we're ashamed of it. And whenever we're covering something up, that keeps us from becoming. So just being able to connect to all of who we are and be proud of that. I was 57, just to be able to do that. The second thing that I heard you say, just to be vulnerable, I was struggling in a marriage. We won't do that either. Sometimes we just got to get to that space where we can overcome just being able to say that and just be connected to that vulnerability. So thank you for sharing that, because there's somebody out there who's listening, and one, they may have struggled with even turning 50, So just to kind of hear you say that with that chin up, shoulders back confidence. And yeah, yes. I mean, and so now you went from concept, you went from going through all of that. Now, Carol, did you experience any challenges? Did you ever say, you know what, I can't do this. This is just too much.
Oh, my goodness. There were countless times, and I had many cheerleaders that were praying for me and helping me get through all of the struggles. And going back to school after many years of not having to study, that I think was the greatest hurdle for me. But I also learned from those that were around me, the younger people. They encouraged me to continue to press on through the pain, if you will. And yeah, I found that to be empowering for me and my journey. Yeah.
Oh, I just heard 3 more nuggets in there. I got to get in. Whoa. Let me tell you what I heard. Okay. The first thing she said, I had cheerleaders. Okay, here we go. Connect to your support system, even if it's one person. Nobody gets anywhere by themselves. Sometimes we can't become and we can't overcome because we're trying to do it by ourselves. You heard her say it. I had cheerleaders all around me. Mm. All right. Secondly, she went out there and picked up the tool of prayer.
Okay, don't leave home without it.
Yes. I do consider prayer as a tool. And whenever we can identify tools that we need to move forward, that's how we become effective and efficient. So we know if we wanted to cut the grass, the tool that we would use is a lawnmower.
Right.
If you wanted to cut a piece of cheese, the tool that we would pick up is a knife. Well, what tool do I pick up when I feel uncertain, when I feel a little defeated? Well, you pick up prayer. You pick up your support group. Those are your tools. And you don't have to ever do it by yourself. You start looking for those tools. And the other thing, those young people, honey, from the mouth of a babe, Yes. I mean, sometimes we can discount just what young people bring. Everybody brings something to this world. It's that little 6-year-old that say, you forgot to pick up the piece of paper. And it's like, oh my goodness, I needed that piece of paper to get into the, and it's that 6-year-old who was watching. So even embracing the wisdom and the support that our young community bring us, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Carol, as you were just kind of matriculating through this program, you get halfway through. and you're starting to just even graduation day.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, yes. Talk to me about the wow, Carol. Give me the wow.
I think there were many moments of, is this real? In fact, I think I harassed my advisor, just double checking and rechecking to make sure that all the requirements were there, because it felt like, is it really happening? That's what I was experiencing. And part of me was thinking of, well, now what? You have this degree, now what? So that was that moment. And then, so we do so much that's in our head. And in my inner head processing, I kept going back and forth with that. And I realized that I was blocking my celebration for this accomplishment. So I had to get out of my head in regards to, now that you have this, what will you do? Why not just celebrate that? So that's what I began to focus on. My children were awesome at cheering me on and saying, Mom, look at you, look what you've done. My family. So after the graduation, or prior to it, I planned a big dinner celebration with my immediate family. It was about 10 of us. And I planned a dinner at a tea room. A friend of mine has a tea room in Midtown called Just Add Honey. And I planned that dinner outside on the patio. And I had a cousin that was a chef to cater it. And it was a beautiful evening, just celebrating with my family that big accomplishment. And that meant so much to me. That was what I had to remind myself to stop and simply celebrate before I go on to processing what next.
Here's the session, honey. Stop. Let me get in there. Let me do that one. Let me do it. Stop and celebrate. Yes. And that's how we become, because a lot of times we can create this unhealthy habit of allowing the inner critic to speak more, to give it room. We don't need permission to put that inner critic on the bench. The opposite of criticism is praise. So when we praise ourselves, we celebrate ourselves. And that is a fantastic thing. And that's how we continue to overcome and become at any age and at any phase of our lives. Just simply stop and celebrate, because at any given time, we have more things working for us than we have working against us.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Carol. You could have been anywhere in this world, but you chose to rock and roll with me. And I thank you for that.
Wow, I thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you. So listen, for all of you out there, you have been wanting to start a project, go back to school, write a book, write a song, do it. As long as you have a heartbeat, it is never too late. Overcome that thought, that fear, and just become. That's it. One step at a time.
All right. I just want to high five you.
All right. So I will see you all next Thursday. If anybody has not told you today, let me be the first to tell you, you are amazing. Be well.